Can the standard get any more steep at Oklahoma at the quarterback position? MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down Oklahoma's positions next. All right, we're talking OU football. We got Jason Ray on the line from Last Word on College Football. We want to remind everyone before we dive into the football talk that you can help us support the channel, help us build it by grabbing the Amazon link in the description section below. Do your regular Amazon shopping using the link. Doesn't cost you an extra penny. Don't have to buy the product. Just use that link. And also join us on Patreon at the Voice of College Football community. Be part of our community there, where we produce 2 exclusive live streams every week, responding to your viewer comments. And get this, we bring you on to talk to me, talking college football live. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mark. How are you, sir?
I am doing just fine. And this is a fun football team to talk about. Plenty of talent to review, despite all the losses across the board. Of course, Jalen Hurts is the guy that gets most of the attention, and rightfully so. I alluded off the top to Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, and even years and years before them in regards to the Sam Bradfords and the Landry Jones type quarterbacks producing huge numbers. Now, Jalen Hurts obviously has a different skill set. We've talked about it a number of times. Just your thoughts about what the Oklahoma offense may look like this season with Jalen Hurts running the show.
Yeah, Mark, as you mentioned, it's certainly a different skill set. Traditionally Oklahoma's after in the post wishbone era in the last 15, 20 years, they've had, just the traditional drop back passer, the Jason Whites, the Sam Bradfords, the Landry Jones. And then, even to a certain extent, they started getting to a little bit more of a mold with kind of the dual threat quarterback in terms of, Baker Mayfield he was certainly well known for his, drop back passing, but he was a little bit of a scrambler. And then, obviously last year with Kyler Murray, they got to the first real true dual threat quarterback where, Kyler actually did run for about 1,000 yards last year, taking into the account the playoff game against Alabama. So, I think Jalen's a little bit different than from a skill set perspective, what he brings to the table, a little bit different than what Kyler does. From a running perspective, Kyler Murray was, kind of more of the scat back, the small guy who could, break the long runs. Whereas I think you'll probably see Jalen Hurts more kind of a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of runner. He'll be able to run people over to kind of get those tough yards. He's probably not going to outrun a lot of cornerbacks and safeties, so you probably won't see it from a fan perspective. Probably won't see a lot of those big, long touchdown runs that you saw from Kyler Murray, but I think you'll see a little bit more between the tackles running. I think you'll see a little bit more kind of and I think we've had this discussion a couple of times, Mark, where I think you'll probably see him more kind of in the mold of a Tim Tebow, a Sam Ehlinger, in terms of, he'll probably get a lot of more short yardage situations, near the goal line. But I think it's probably, 700 to 800 yards is probably what you would probably like to see and what you would look for. From a passing perspective, certainly obviously, kind of well chronicled. Jalen Hurts has had, some. He's been a little bit inconsistent in the passing game, specifically the down the field passing game. He did look really, really solid in the spring game. I think he completed over 75 to 80% of his passes. But it'll be interesting to see what Lincoln Riley does with him. A full, not having a full year in the program, having a full summer, obviously, with the spring. But how that offense will look a little bit different. Riley will look to kind of tailor more to his strengths from a passing game perspective. And, I think the one advantage that Jalen Hurts will have going into this year does have that time with Riley. And on the other side, he doesn't have to contend with the tough defenses in the SEC that he will with the kind of the pass happy offense happy Big 12. So it'll be interesting to see how that molds. I think it'll probably be a work in progress as the season goes along.
The career storyline for Jalen Hurts is quite intriguing in that he arrives on the scene in 2016. He gains the job as a freshman. He comes within a couple seconds of winning a national championship game, a game in which he did not perform that well throwing the football, and that turned out to be the narrative for the next few years, but he did run it well, and he threw it well late in the game. He produced 2 touchdowns late that would have won the national championship, but a guy on the other side by the name of Deshaun Watson led his 2 touchdown drives to win the game. So he goes almost undefeated within seconds of a national championship as a freshman, and I think it's fair to evaluate the situation as the most talented team in college football, great runners, receivers, amazing defense, almost got him to a national championship. He took care of business, didn't turn the ball over, and used his skills. The next season, he has another really good season. I believe he throws 1 interception in 2017. They get to the national championship game. He doesn't play well. They have no points on the board. Tua Tagovailoa makes his breakout party and saves the national championship game. And Jalen Hurts is kind of a cast off. Well, he's not that good. He's just a runner. He's a running back playing quarterback. Tua is the guy. Tua is so much better, and probably is as a passer. And then we go into last season, and Tua's the man. He's throwing for a zillion yards and basically flawless every game. And then we get to the SEC championship game, and Tua doesn't play well. He gets hurt. They're down by 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts comes back, uses his legs, but throws the ball downfield, makes throws, and he had shown this early throughout the season, but in mop-up time, so some people disregarded it, that he had improved as a passer, and then he shows it against one of the more talented units in the country, Georgia, under pressure in the last 10 minutes of the game in the SEC championship game. He pulls that game out, and so it's just kind of an interesting storyline and career he's already had, and this arrives now in Oklahoma, where he has one of the great offensive minds on the sideline to provide his tutelage. And we'll see what I don't think he's going to turn into Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, as we've discussed in the past. But I would consider that the development should continue as a passer.
Yeah, I would absolutely think so, Mark. And I think a couple of things kind of come to mind in that regard. So I think before the spring game started, there was there was a pregame kind of a pre-spring press conference where Jalen was asked a number of questions about following the footsteps of Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. He answered everything, as you would expect a seasoned veteran of his nature to answer. I'm my own player. Yes, I do certainly respect and I understand what comes with coming to a program like Oklahoma with back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners. But he said all the right things as far as that goes, and I think it was kind of interesting when Kyler was actually selected number 1 overall in the NFL draft this year. Jalen immediately tweeted out something like, "Well, here we go." Like one of those things. Like I know the expectations that are kind of set up on me by he said. I knew those expectations coming in, before I decided to transfer to Oklahoma. He knew that those expectations were there. So, yeah, I mean, you're right, Mark. It was, I think, all of us watching the SEC championship game when Georgia went up a couple of scores, and then Tua went down, and I think a lot of us thought, okay, well, this is Alabama probably going to lose this game just because he hasn't had, to your point, in mop-up duty. Jalen hadn't had a lot of meaningful snaps during the year. He did look very, to your point, he did look very, very good in the time that he did have. But yeah, I think even outsiders looking in, just watching that, were certainly very impressed with what the poise that he showed, which is you would expect that I think from someone from his from as seasoned as he is as a quarterback. But not only that, but the accuracy that he showed and bringing Alabama back in that game, I think was certainly very intriguing. I think to use one of your words around kind of the situation, Mark, just to see how much he's improved, and I think the talent around him in Norman will help with that, kind of that maturing factor and improving. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us, on the outside looking in or inside the program, honestly, are going to expect him to put up the same numbers that a Baker Mayfield or a Kyler Murray would put up. But I think he can be, and this is maybe a little bit not meant as a disrespect to Jalen in particular, but I think he can be serviceable enough to take Oklahoma where they need or they want to be this year.
And what is also intriguing, if we can throw that word out there one more time, would be the decision that he had to make. So he comes to Oklahoma where the quarterback standard is through the roof and the winning standard is just about there. He's going to be surrounded by the coaching and the talent to succeed, but the measurement of success is extremely high and the expectations are ridiculous. Or he could have gone to, I know Maryland was under consideration and talked about, and some other places where, hey, get us to 7-5, run around, make plays. The offense is going to be on your shoulders, and but we don't expect a whole lot in regards to wins and losses. We just want to get to postseason play and improve considerably. And he could probably have pulled that off, and been considered to be a success. Success obviously is measurable to different degrees at different locations, but he made the choice that he wanted to be surrounded by top flight talent and coaching with the expectations of winning in the Big 12, going to the college football playoff, and replacing a great deal of the production that was missed when Kyler Murray decided to opt for the NFL draft. All right, we got Jason Ray on the line. Last word on college football. Let's hit these other guys. So Oklahoma fans don't want to see them unless it's 28-0. But I know a lot of people are excited about Spencer Rattler and what he brings to the table down the line.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Spencer Rattler certainly the future at the position, at the quarterback position. He, to your point, he didn't come in the spring. He was, he's on campus now. I believe he's enrolled. He's going through some of the summer workout programs at Oklahoma. So I think officially he'll probably be number 3 on the depth chart, at least at this point right now, right behind Tanner Mordecai, who did play in the spring game, was struggled a little bit. We talked about that as we went through our spring game kind of recap, and he looked like he was pressing a little bit. You could definitely tell he was the he was the person that hadn't played the position as well at least at the collegiate level. He was forcing some throws in that Jalen Hurts wasn't. So I think right now he's probably the number two guy, but wouldn't be surprised at least by, if not by the beginning of the year, by the middle of the year, you see Spencer Rattler there, number 1 quarterback in the country coming out of high school. Didn't enroll early. I think there's certainly been some debate about that, whether or not that was the right decision for him to finish out his high school, not enroll early versus enrolling in the summer. But I think it's with Jalen Hurts transferring to Oklahoma, I think that's probably worked out really well. And I think you've seen according to Twitter, you've seen a couple of photos and a couple of tweets out where Spencer's certainly welcomed the addition of Jalen Hurts to the team, and I think it's a really good opportunity, Mark, for Spencer to learn this year under someone who's been through the wars, been through and especially the adversity that Jalen Hurts has been through in his career. I think he's certainly the future. Wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, I think if something were to happen from an injury perspective to Jalen Hurts this year, I would certainly expect that Rattler probably would get that nod, just because of he think he's probably more physically ready right now at this point, even being a true freshman, than Mordecai probably would at this point.